Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
This is our YouTube channel. We appreciate you being here. Subscribe to the channel. Give this video a like.
Check out the podcast below in the description as well.
All right, John, 49ers season is over. It's not just about head coaches that could become or assistants that could become head coaches like Robert Saleh. Adam Schefter tweeted this on Monday. Per a source, after 10 years as the Broncos GM, John Elway is taking an elevated role with the team and will hire a GM, giving him final say on personnel. Elway will stay on as the president of football operations while the GM works closely with Vic Fangio or somebody else. Elway helped Denver win to nearly 100 wins and a Super Bowl win. And what do we think immediately, both of us?
Yeah, I mean, Adam Peters, the 49ers, he's not technically their GM, though he kind of feels
VP
like their pseudo.
of player personnel, I think is the title.
I mean, I would, kind of like in a different role. This might, I don't know if many people are locked into the A's, like Billy Beane and Dave Forrest. It happens a lot in baseball. I do feel like the Niners have a baseball feel to it. John's the GM, but that guy is just what Farhan was it Friedman in L.A., what that kind of dynamic was like. I do think it's very, very baseball-y the way the Niners have run it, where that's not normal. Like when you think Brett Veach, John Schneider, like they have important people, Ryan Pace, whoever, they're just the GM. It does feel like with the 49ers, it kind of have been this bang, bang, boom. How he did it for 3 or 4 years with Joe Douglas. He kind of elevated himself, and Joe was right there. And, Lurie, I don't know. But I just think it's beyond logical. If Elway's staying, he's not going to hire some random guy. Because, one, Adam Peters played a huge role when they got good with Peyton Manning. Remember the credit he got for C.J. Anderson, who was their starting running back? I attended that Super Bowl. And, C.J., when Adam left, I remember tweeted out something like, this guy's the reason. The irony, I was working the West Coast too, and I
you missed on him.
Undrafted. I wouldn't touch him.
I remember you telling me you didn't like him. Thought he was slow.
Well, he didn't have a great senior year. He had a good junior year. Adam had been beating the bushes a little longer than I had. But the point is, Adam's incredibly well respected. Look at his resume, guy. New England Patriots, right. John Elway, and now John Lynch. So you're Belichick, Elway, and Lynch. But again, it goes back to if Elway's staying. If I just said Elway left. If that had been the report, I would be like, yeah, Adam has a good chance, but who knows? They don't even have an owner. Who knows? To me, I just don't see how it's humanly possible that he's not clearly the number one guy at the top of the want list for Elway.
Yeah,
which is a problem for the Niners.
Because Elway trusts him, but it might be that he's just too hot of a commodity to keep, whether it's the Broncos or not, right? You mentioned a few weeks ago there were some whispers around the league that he could be a package deal with Robert Saleh to Detroit. The Carolina Panthers, who have Matt Rule, who they go back to UCLA, requested an interview with Adam Peters. It feels like it might be a matter of time, and the only way that you keep him is if you elevate him, right? If John Lynch kind of elevates himself, so to speak, in the way that John Elway has, and then you pass on the power down to your new GM, Adam Peters. But there's a problem with that. And the problem with that is John Lynch doesn't have control of the roster to give. Kyle Shanahan has that. So John Elway is giving control of the roster to his next GM. The Niners could pay Adam Peters a lot of money if they wanted to, and they could say, you are now the GM, and you are kind of the next president of football. You're the John Lynch in waiting, whatever. But you can't, if he really wants control of the roster, which I would imagine the GM wants, depends on his relationship with Kyle. That's the one thing the Niners cannot give him that Denver could give him.
The reason John Lynch is with the 49ers is Kyle Shanahan. The reason Adam Peters is with the 49ers is because of John Lynch, not Kyle Shanahan. Right now, their relationship over the last...
Elway, because he wasn't getting player control, Elway had to approve that the Niners could hire him. Elway didn't have to let him go.
No, and it was a big story when he hired him, right?
Yeah.
He went to John. He told him it was where he was from. Adam Peters is from, the South Bay. I think he has family that lives here. I've known him since Fresno State. People love the guy. I like the guy. And I text with a lot of people in the league, and I've known him for a long time. He is not like Mr. Media pumping out his chest. Like, even when I text him, he might text me back, he might not. I've known him for a long time. Like, he's not into playing all the games. I can see why nuts and bolts football people like him. Like, he's a UCLA guy. He played. He's super smart. Like, if he wanted to play that game, he would be viewed as like the way we talk about John Schneider. Like, he is.
He's not a self-promoter, you're saying?
Not at all. Not at all. And I think he's one of the rare guys in football from a personnel standpoint. And you see it around this time of year, all these names, like, who are these guys? He is not like that at all. Yet his resume, Belichick, Elway, Lynch. I mean, look at his resume. And the Niners is a fantastic job. But like you said, he is never going to control it as long as Kyle Shanahan works here. Kyle just signed a 6-year extension last year. Let's assume he makes $10 to $11 million a year. He's the grand poobah. A highly paid general manager in the NFL is like a Joe Douglas. And really it was because Joe had a bunch of leverage. Remember when the Jets had an opening and was like, I'm not going to go. Makes a little under $4 million. I'd say the average GM makes between 1.5 to 2. But like if you're a GM making 3, you're making good coin. That is 30% of what highly paid coaches make.
Yeah.
So it's like that guy has more juice. Denver, one, it's just an incredible franchise, right? Just the history, the fan base, the city. It's just a big-time football town. And you have a relationship with really the Grand Poobah. I mean, he's the most famous player and the most probably famous person in the history of the franchise, beside Pat, the owner, and just the franchise itself. Like when I think the Denver Broncos, I think John Elway. Even like when you say the San Francisco 49ers, if I just ask random people, you might get like 5, 6 different answers. Same thing with the Steelers. I'd say with the Broncos, you get one answer immediately, and it's John Elway.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the other thing, though, and by the way, with the Niners or most franchises, that person's not in charge of the football team, right? The person that you would say. You might say Joe Montana or Jerry Rice or
Bill Walsh.
Yeah, or whatever. You just pick any
Ronnie
franchise.
Lott.
Usually that person's not in charge.
No.
Now, I guess you don't. There are examples, right, of a head coach with roster control having a personnel person, and the relationship grows enough to the point that even though the coach still has control, John Schneider in Seattle, your guy Brett Veach in Kansas City, they do. It's now who knows, but it seems from the outside at least they get to be the GM, even though technically if there was a fist fight in the draft room, the coach would be the one that gets to draft the player. You know, I don't know if this could get to that, but again, we're still a step away from that because he's not the GM in San Francisco, and there's no indication that John Lynch is about to do what John Elway just did.
Yeah. I remember he got an extension as well last year. I would be a little surprised because unlike Elway, who's much older than John Lynch, 1, 2, has gone through a really rough stretch. Now, I'd say the last 3 or 4 years, right, where I think they went from the Super Bowl run to what they've become the last 3 years, and it's gotten ugly. And I think maybe he's just maybe he was forced, maybe he's acknowledging himself. Who knows? Who cares? It doesn't matter. Like, it's just he is what he is. The GM there is, I'd say, Elway beside Belichick, but Belichick was also the coach. There's probably not a GM in the league that has more juice than John Elway, right? I mean, like Gruden does, but Gruden's also the coach. You know what I'm saying? Like a guy that is not the coach. Elway used to wear the headset. Remember when you see him on like Sunday night when they were good? Like he was listening to the coaches. He was like Al Davis. And that's where it is a very, very powerful job. It's a great place to live, a ton of history. You get to be the boss. I just don't see – we'll see how these other openings, the Lions, the Falcons, the Texans play out. I would imagine less than half of them the GM's in charge, right? It typically the coach has a lot of juice. That's not the case in this organization.
From the 49ers standpoint, if we went to the head table, right, you've got Kyle, you've got John Lynch, you've got Parag Marathe, you've got Adam Peters, you've got Martin Mayhew, who also has the VP of Player Personnel title. That seems like kind of that's been the core group in this short Shanahan-Lynch era. And so now we've reached a point, like we talk about it, your team gets more expensive, your quarterback gets more expensive, but it's also the more success you start having. Maybe Kyle's going to lose Robert Saleh. Maybe he's going to lose an offensive coordinator. Now it's happening in your front office. Like this is kind of, we have entered phase 2 of this as an organization. Forget about the player personnel. The individual players become small potatoes when we start talking about the big picture. Well, not small potatoes, but smaller decisions when we start talking about who are the guys that are really evaluating the players that you draft? Who are the guys that are really evaluating the free agent players that are available to you? And it's hard to know exactly, right, from the outside who would have banged the table for Zach Wilson or who would have banged the table for Justin Fields. A lot of times that stuff doesn't always get out. But what we do know is that Adam Peters is a major cog in that process for the 49ers, and it feels like now there's several opportunities for him to be gone, and that's a hole they're going to have to find a way to fill.
Yeah, this to me clearly is the best one. Like I look at this job for the Lions, the Falcons, like I don't even think it's close. Being the general manager of the Denver Broncos, when he's been there, he has cachet and like people know him. That the boss now likes him, because technically Elway in this situation is almost the owner, right? Until they get this figured out, you get to hire the coach. I just think it immediately goes. I will be stunned unless the John Lynch thing happens, which I don't expect, if he's not the next general manager of the Denver Broncos.